going to figure that out, but what was it? Like, how did Jesus walk? How did Jesus live his life? So that's always something that's been intriguing to me. So I'm just going to start off with a few facts. What is the Appalachian Trail? What is it? It's a continuous footpath stretching 2,179 miles through 14 states from Georgia to Maine. And now it's actually up to 2,181 miles, I think. So that's always actually getting a little bit longer. There's some trail maintenance that happens, and it adds a little section here. There may be a rock slide that you have to route around or something like that. So it's going up. It's essentially the same exact trail. But it goes through 14 states. So why would you want to do this, man? Are you serious? Why would you? Are you kidding me? Like, what's wrong with you, bro? Like, why would you? Alright, there's some questions. To me, this is how I answer. Seek the Lord while He may be found. To me, this is what I aim to do. I was like, I'm going to get out there, and I'm going to put myself in a scary place, and it's going to have to be God that sustains me. It's going to have to be God that helps me. And I will find Him when I'm seeking Him. Mm-hmm. The Lord your God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart. I think that's easy to do with all your heart. With all of your soul. Yeah, okay, we can do that. But to love God with all of your strength was something that I wanted to try to do. I knew going into it that this was going to be an endurance thing. This was going to be something that was going to test me, hopefully to pass my limit. I need to see what my limits are. Sometimes I need to go there to see, okay, this is as far as you can go. That's all you got. But I needed something to test me to my strength limit. And continue to work out your salvation with fear and trembling. Sometimes it's easy to get comfortable. And you're not really afraid in your life. We may have fears of disease or fears of different things that come with the territory of where we are and what we live, but to put myself in a situation that genuinely made me have to rely on God, genuinely made me afraid, I think was something that was my aim, one of my aims, to continue to work out my salvation with fear and trembling. Here's a couple of things about me. I'm an inquisitive man who actively seeks out new challenges and the thrill of adventure. So my background, I've got a bachelor's of science in parks, recreation, and tourism with a concentration in natural resource management and a minor in physical education and outdoor leadership. So I like to be out there. I like to do that kind of thing, like on a regular basis. I'm driving my wife crazy because she's like, please get out. Just go chop a tree down. Just come back home alive. I'll be okay with that, right? And speaking of living, I am most alive when I'm at home and at home when I'm in the wilderness. That's where I feel comfortable. Now, it has taken me a while to get there. It has taken me doing several specific things to help me to feel comfortable being in that environment. And I've actually, purposely gone after taming some of the fears and some of those anxieties so that I can be comfortable in the wilderness. And I like growing beards, I like growing a beard here and there, So I was like, hey, that's an excuse, right? So here's some frequently asked questions. I'm not going to dwell on this a lot. I just, some of you probably have some of these questions going through your mind. What did you bring? How long did it take you, bro? What's going on? How long did that trip take you? What did you eat? Were you eating berries, man? Were you killing deer? What was going on? Were you fishing? How much food did you carry? Right? I was like, what is going on here? How did you get water? Were you using some survival techniques? Did you ever get lost, lonely, or homesick? Did you carry a gun? That's a good question, right? Did you see any bears? Right? I did see bears. I did not carry a gun. Where did you sleep? I slept all over the place. I slept wherever I could sleep. And how cold did it get? How many miles did you do per day? What was your longest day? What was your favorite part of the trail? What was your favorite piece of gear? Did you pass through any towns? Did you take any days off?
And how often did you see your wife? Right? Okay. All right. So these are all legitimate questions, right? And I can answer all those. But I'm going to just really spend more of my time focusing on what did I take away? What did I see? I saw a lot of things. But one of the biggest parallels that I was able to see, I'm going to make this connection between a through hiker, which is someone who's out there doing this on a continuous basis, and a Christian, right? So that was one of the biggest parallels that I saw, was a through hiker, and this thing that I'm doing is going to represent kind of like a Christian here in my real life, right? So what is a through hiker? A through hiker is one who is always a hiker on the trail and works to finish the task. Not a weekend warrior or a section hiker who talks a good game but only shows up on the weekends. Because I read, and that's a good thing to actually go out, camp on the weekend, and do those kinds of things. Yes, that's great. But what I'm going to be talking about is something more specific to just a through hiker. What is a through hiker? It's someone that's dedicated, someone that's out there, someone that's sold out that they're going to finish this thing. They're going to go all the way. A through hiker is someone who stands out amongst other hikers by confidence and a hardening from being in the conditions of nature. There's something about in that process of endurance that changes you. It helps you have a confidence that a lot of other folks just don't have, And so this was something that, because I was a disciple, I was able to see some of these connections. A through hiker is when in civilization will not match the crowd or be able to blend in with the surroundings. Do you see someone here? You look real close, right? In this little part right there, there's this guy. He just looks kind of weird, right? Like he's got these two hiking sticks. What are those things? He's got some really ugly shorts on. He's got this little do-rag going on here. And he's standing in the middle of a car line. Like, what? Is this guy homeless? What is he doing? He looks too trim to be homeless. There's something wrong with this guy, right? So sometimes you just are not going to fit in. That's something that I realized. I'm like, okay, I am doing a very specific task here. I'm kind of removed from everything else. How ironic is it that I'm standing here traveling by foot in a parking lot with cars? General mode of transportation. But here I am, taking kind of a, no pun intended, step back, and I'm going to travel this on foot. So it is a footpath. Sometimes you're just not going to blend in. A true Christian will stand out in a crowd. They will seem odd when they don't join in with a group or make jokes and fall into sin. They're always on. You're always on. That was something that's different about a through hiker. They're always on the trail. Always on the trail. And a true Christian's always on. You're always on. You're not perfect, but you're always working. There's a big difference. You're always working. So here are a few things that I took away. The path is narrow. The path is narrow. Here's a video. For some reason the link is dead now, but essentially in this video, I'm walking a section through the Smokies, and we're in the midst of a cloud, as you can see right over there. That's a drop-off that drops down about 2,000 feet on one side. And then on the other side, the trail is literally about 4 feet wide. And I just had to stop and I've got to take a picture of this. I've got to take a small video because the path is narrow. As Jesus said, enter through the narrow gate. For broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. But narrow is the road to life, and only a few find it. A lot of times, that was one of the biggest things that I took away, is I'm staring at this narrow path. It's a very challenging path. It is very hard to do. And I'm walking on it every day. And at this one point in the Smokies, the trail literally is 4 feet wide, and it drops off about 600 feet on one side and about 2,000 feet on the other side. And there's just a little path like this wide. I wish this little clip would show, but anyways, it was astonishing to me. I'm like, wow, such is the path that we're on. That's the path that you're walking. As a disciple, that's the path that you're on. I mean, 600 feet, that's pretty high, right? 2,000 feet, that's pretty high, right? And sometimes in your life, the path is elevated like that. Sometimes it's just out there, and Jesus expects for us to walk the narrow path. He expects it. Can you do it? Yes, you can do it.
So I've got a few slides here of just what the narrow path looked like. So here's a shot. This is in early April, coming out of the Nantahala Outdoor Center. And we get up to the top of this ridge line. It's about 4,300 feet elevation. A snowstorm came in, one of those late spring or early spring snowstorms. We had about a foot of snow. It got to about 10 degrees, and there's a long trip right here. So anyways, essentially I hiked through this for about 21 miles all the way down into Lake Fontana the following day. So I woke up in the morning and it's frigid condition. Everyone's water had completely frozen. I had a little bit of presence of mind to put my water in my sleeping bag, and so it was thawed out throughout the day. But it was hard. It was a hard day, and but it was beautiful. That was absolutely stunning, and that was my view for like the next 9 hours. That was it. And then as you're going closer, I wish we could dim the lights a little. Here's a section where there are these evergreen shrubs that have grown pretty large, but the trail literally goes right through. God makes a way through things. You know, He made many thousands of ways for me to be able to hike this narrow path. He had it laid out, and that's how God is in our lives. Thank you, brother. So here you can see it. Absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Definitely narrow. It would definitely be much harder if you were to step anywhere to the right or anywhere to the left. Anywhere to the right or left. As it talks about in Proverbs, let your eyes be always before you. It's easy to fall here, you know. There's another section. I was like, is that going to be a big thunderstorm? Because that is hard. That's challenging. But the trail here just kind of goes into the forest, you know. Sometimes you're hiking through, and you're like, okay, I hope that this is not the edge of the world here. I'm thinking this thing's going to finish at some point, right? I got to keep going, right? Just absolutely gorgeous. This early morning, early foggy mornings, and then as the seasons progress, this is up in Virginia, walking through some pasture land, and the trail is clearly before you. And then sometimes it gets kind of clear, but the only thing that's established is just traffic. You know, just other people, other Christians that have gone before you have left a path for you to follow. Following the prophets. You go through and you read in Hebrews 11 where it talks about the Hall of Fame of the prophets, right? They left a path for all of us to be able to follow. There it is. I'm looking at it, you know. That's the Appalachian Trail, by the way, but figuratively speaking, right? And then again, just absolutely, just narrow little ribbon of path that I'm following. Do you see anybody else? No, right? It's just me. I was doing, most of the time I hiked completely by myself. I would see people in the evening as I spent the night in my location and then just hike the next day. And it was like a long, continuous prayer walk. I prayed about everything that I could imagine. And then when I ran out of things, I imagine more things. You know, it's like, okay, I've already prayed about that. I've prayed about children that I don't even have. I've prayed about their lifespan all the way through till they have had their grandchildren and prayed through all of that. So what else am I going to pray about? Okay, I'm going to invent this brother, Chris, and I'm going to start praying about this brother, Chris. I've never even met Chris. I don't even know if Chris exists, but maybe I'll see him in heaven and be like, yeah, I remember, I prayed about you. I made you up on the trail. Here's a place. I love this place. It's up in Virginia. It's an area called Tinker Cliffs. And it literally, you're walking right on the edge of this cliff. It's totally breathtaking. I got up there for a sunset, hiking through the evening, and as you can see, you've got this just range, these ripples of these mountains that you can just stare at, and you ask, how did God do that? Right. How did God make that? It's unbelievable. His power is beyond comprehension. And so I just sat there, just sang a song, watched the sun go down. This is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And so sometimes the narrow path leads you through all kinds of places. You know, God makes a bridge. He makes a way for you. You know, He will make a way for you. That was a suspension bridge. At mile 600, as I crossed that bridge, Felt like Indiana Jones. I got up there and just kind of shaking it around. That was cool. Now this is I don't know if you can tell, it has a tiny little light there. And if you start doing some searching on what the Appalachian Trail is, you'll hear about the green tunnel effect. And essentially it's a tunnel that's formed by the canopy of the trees in middle to late summer. And here it is. You know, literally when you're walking through this, all of the light that comes through is filtered out and is green. Like, you're like, wow, this is, you know, if you have like a white shirt on, it's almost like a greenish color because of the effect to it. And this is up in Connecticut, and it was literally a tunnel before me. And I thought, God, this is fantastic. It's so quiet. So quiet. Like, when you're walking past this, there's just something that makes you slow down, and you just want to take in the quiet. And there's just a certain reverence about different areas of the trail like this. And no wind, no people, no cars. You just hear the animals. You hear the birds. And it's just the peace of that situation is just, you know, and there are thousands of times. And then there are some times where it is tough. Yeah. This is a section in Pennsylvania. If you do any kind of searching on the Appalachian Trail in Pennsylvania, it's referred to as Rocksylvania. And it is, I kept hearing about it. You know, I'm like, oh yeah, it's rocks. Okay, rocks. No joke. Like 150 miles of stuff like this. Yeah. And it's not just Pennsylvania. It goes into New Jersey and into New York a little bit. So I'm thinking, as soon as I get across Pennsylvania, oh, I'm out of this. Nope. It's like a highway of rocks. The guy that put this trail together, I'm like, why did you do that? Why did you put the trail straight through rocks? And sometimes you ask that question to God, like, God, why is my path going through here? Literally, it looks so easy right over there. Right? You see that right over there, right? It would be a lot easier for me to just be over there or right here, but here, come on. You know? And when God says for us to make our feet like the feet of a deer, they are equipped to walk through these things. And I'm like, it's not the path's fault. It's me. I have to raise up to be able to take on the challenges of my life. And this situation is very easy to turn an ankle, to fall. I'm out there by myself. Pity the man who falls and has no one to help pick him up. Right? And so I thought, well, I better not fall right here because that's going to hurt, you know? And there's many times that I could have fallen through there. And there's some times when your trail's completely submerged. Completely. And I'm talking like almost knee-deep water for 6 miles. Okay? Just from one little rainstorm. It just rained all night. So I take off the next morning, I run into some guys, they're going southbound, I'm going northbound. I started in Georgia and started working my way towards Maine. So there was a few fellas, they're coming up the trail, and they say, it gets a little wet up there. And I'm thinking, well, okay, cool, thanks man. I had no idea. That's a little wet. I mean, I could have kayaked this. Like, you know, where's my boat? Yeah, and I mean, just I can't believe it. I'm like, wow, where's this water? This is great. In Pennsylvania, there was this ridge line that just, it's like the top of the mountain was completely flat, and the water could not drain anywhere. It just drained in the recess of where the trail was, and so it was just, you know. And then you walk straight through it. Walk straight through all the water. And then sometimes God takes you through one of these. And you're like, wait a second. Is this a trap? I mean, really? Is this where you're going to take me off? I mean, somebody's got to film this because, you know, like, this is a special place on the trail called the Guillotine. And you can see why, right? There's this rock that's just wedged in between these two massive, like, just pieces of granite, and it's just this rock. It's just perched there in the middle. And you're like, wow. There are sermons on just this picture alone. And as I was going through, I'm thinking, wow, look at this. I just paused for a second. I was like, wow, I can preach right here. I can preach about all the things that I'm seeing here, you know. And how many different times in your life have you been going through something like this? You know, so many different times where maybe you're at your job and there's something going on or whatever it is. God keeps that up there, you know. A lot of people are going to be really afraid by that, but if you trust the forces that are in action here, and the time. How long has that rock been there? You think it's really going to fall on your head right now?
Right.
Come on, who are you, right? Who are you? If you think that rock's going to fall on your head is as big as that rock. Right? That rock's not going anywhere. You know? And then sometimes, you're like, where? What? Where is it? Yeah, okay. Yeah, so someone helped us out. They said, here, there's an arrow. Get to work, right? So this is the famed Mahoosic Notch. This is claimed the hardest mile on the whole Appalachian Trail. And typically, as you're hiking a mile, if you're in a good pace, it'll take you maybe 15 to 20 minutes. Through this, it will take you maybe 30 minutes to an hour to go the 1 mile. You're literally climbing over these giant boulders. You're going down underneath. You're crawling on your hands and your knees, and it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. When I went through here, it was late June, and there was still 6 feet of ice in the bottom of this, underneath these rocks. It never thaws out. It's in between these really sharp mountains that just go down, and this is actually the best path through that section, you know. So it's treacherous. We ran into a dead like a deer. It was just like it fallen. I don't even know how far it falls. You know, even a deer fall. You know. So the path is narrow. I saw that over and over and over and over again. But also what I saw was that this trail for me was a shadow of things to come. So here is a picture of my wife and I down in Georgia at the southern terminus in Springer Mountain. And here is a picture. She started with me, and then she walked the first couple miles with me, and then she hiked the last 10 with me. And so it was nice to have the bookends there. But then I was like, okay, I hope this is the way it's going to be in heaven, where the people that start with you are the people that finish with you. You know, that all of us, the people that started with you, are they still there? You know, are they still there with you? So that was something that kept going through my mind. It's the shadow of things to come. So here I am. Here's this rookie. What's this guy doing, right? So when I was about to start, I had no idea the challenges that I was about to face. No idea. I was as prepared as I thought I could be. But the next thing is to take the first step. You know, and as we become Christians, as we get baptized, this is essentially what we're doing. We're like, okay, here we go. I'm going to do it. I have no idea what I'm about to do, but I'm going to do it, and I need to keep going. Perseverance must finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. James 1:2. So for me, I saw a lot of people that I was hiking with, they quit. And it was really hard, you know? You see these people, now for me I didn't actually walk with them like every step, but I would see them in the evenings, and I would see them through different places, and sometimes we would do a little leapfrog. I would hike for about a week, maybe take a day off, they would take a day off in a different place, and sometimes we would catch, you know, each other. But it was really hard when someone left the trail. It was just like when someone fell away. They decide, I don't have the motivation to do this anymore. And there's nothing you can do to help that person. You know, except encourage them to keep their motivation all the time. You know, you've got friends right now, brothers and sisters, that are probably be sitting here, but for whatever reason they're not. You know, we gotta always be in contact with them. Keep going with them so their motivation is high. You know, perseverance must finish its work. What is on the other side? Just keep going. See what's there. The struggle helps us to grow. This was another thing. It was very, very, very challenging. Very challenging. More challenging than any other physical labor or work that I've ever done in my life. And it made me think of Jesus. Although he was a son, he learned obedience from what he suffered. Now, it's easy for us to create a nice, comfy environment at your house, at your workplace, in your community, where life is just easy. There's no struggle. Or, you know, like, you're like, wait a second, life is hard enough as it is. Why do I need to add more struggle to my life? Right? Why do I need to do that? You know, what did Jesus do? Jesus didn't have it easy. You know, Jesus learned obedience from what he suffered.
So I started thinking, wow, that gave me some support when I knew that I was just suffering. So here are some faces of suffering. Right? So this was that long day in the snow I was telling you about, going down into Fontana. I mean, it was windy. I wish that I had maybe some other gear, but I had on the things that I knew was going to keep me warm and safe. That was the best that I could do. It's really hard to see, but the mouthpiece on my water, the bite valve, was completely solid frozen. So I was lucky enough to have that water that I told you. It didn't freeze. But a lot of people were getting dehydrated this day. There's no water. I mean, there's water everywhere, but it's going to take a really long time for you to actually process that, filter it, and be able to get it into your body. So I was grateful that God protected me there. That was a long day. More suffering. Wow. I'm sure that's an amazing view. I bet. But I couldn't see it. I'm like, wow, thank you. I wonder what's back there. You know? And at this point, it was like this blowing, cold mist that it was non-stop. I mean, non-stop. It was coming. And you're like, wow, is this going to let up? I need some sunlight here. Because it had been raining for days. I mean, like 2 weeks. And all the clothes that you're wearing, you're going to have to put them back on the next morning. So you start, that funk starts to set in. Right? Trust me, I'm like, oh, this is not smelling good. Yeah, the socks. Oh, the socks. Look at that. Look at this guy, right? What is he thinking, I was a little sweaty there, really tired. My feet hurt. And I'm like, why would somebody want to keep doing this? Why would Jesus keep doing what he did if he suffered so much? He knew what was on the other side. That's what kept him going. Okay, so, all right. I'll tell you there's a little spiritual side note to this. So a lot of people ask me, what was your longest day? My longest day was 40 miles. And coincidentally happened on my spiritual birthday on May the 5th. And I hiked 40 miles into Damascus, Virginia. Wow. Yeah, think about those numbers, right? So, to me, it was a spiritual section where I'm like, okay, 40 miles. What's the significance of 40? Right? There's a lot of significance to 40. My spiritual birthday, so I'm thinking about that day, when I was baptized in Raleigh. And that was a deep moment. It was a really, really hard moment, I hiked for about 17 hours that day and got into Damascus, and it took me about an hour and a half to go to sleep because my body just hurt that bad. That's after 800 milligrams of ibuprofen. That was a tough day. It was a challenging day. And then I ended it in the dark, just hiking in the dark for about 10 miles just in the dark. That little headland. That was a long day, hard day. Oh, here's one. Okay. Sometimes it's painful. This is one of the most painful things that happened to me. Okay, so that is some hair from my knee. I was walking through these two little tight pieces of rocks, and my foot slipped, and then my other knee went up to catch myself, and I just slammed into this rock. Oh. And I don't know, for some reason I've got really sensitive knees. It hurt so bad. I was like, oh! And I looked back and I saw like this nasty wad of hair from my knee on that rock, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this trail hurts. Sometimes you go through things in your life, it hurts. It hurts. You're like, wow, what was going on there? Why did God make it hurt? Why did God make this hurt? If you love something, it's going to hurt. And sometimes we go through some pain and suffering in our life. And here's what, so I shave my beard off. There's a reason why I shave. There's a thing called Lyme disease, and it's carried by these tiny little deer ticks that are smaller than a freckle. They're like about as big as a big flake of pepper. They're like about 2 grains of salt. Is about how big these deer ticks are. So I found one, and I got really paranoid, so I shaved my beard off. But this is a sad face here. This is not fear of thing. This
because my wife and I had taken a nap on these two rocks previously, about 2 years before. So I'm hiking through this section, and I'd been there with my wife, and I wanted to go home. I was like, whatever, man. My wife's at home. I gotta be a fool to be out here right now. I'm going, you know. But I'm like, I gotta keep going. But it hurts, you know. You go through a lot of emotional pain. Then your feet hurt. Here's hiking feet, right? I've got some sock liners. I've got some wool socks, and I've got these trail runners that I put about 800 miles on. And this was a view that you saw pretty much every time you took a break. You just looked down and you're like, your feet, are you good? You okay? You all right now? You gonna keep going? You know, because we're both hurting right now, you know? I just think about the time when Jesus paused and when he hurt. Where did he hurt? You know, was it his heart that hurt? His new spiritual struggle that he was doing? For me, it was a lot of different things. This is the main culprit right here, these guys, you know, and they hurt a lot. And here's a section called Saddleback. Each one of these pictures, I have a special memory that would take maybe 30 minutes for me to share about each one. But this is as I got further north of the Maine and different places. This is an absolutely gorgeous area. You're kind of above tree line at this point, so the trees they can't grow. The conditions are not possible for them to be able to grow. So the path up there is exposed, high winds. You see Main Highway 4 there, 5.4 miles. This is 5.7 miles. This is just north of Mount Washington, New Hampshire, if you are familiar with that area, where at some point, I think it was the strongest recorded wind gust on the planet was up there. It was over 260 miles an hour.
Wow.
That's just up on mountain, right? Wait, strongest wind gust, you're talking like even in a hurricane. Yes, up there on top of one of those mountains. Literally, when I got up there, I do have a picture, but it was really hard for me to find it. There's a cabin that's built up there. It's concreted down onto the rocks, and it's got these giant logging chains that go over the top of the cabin, and they're concreted into the ground because the building will literally blow off. Wow. The wind is that strong, you know, and so I've got wind in my face here. You can't really tell it, but it's just hard. Sometimes it's just a really hard path to walk. So Hebrews 10, 35 through 39. So do not throw away your confidence. It will be richly rewarded. It will be richly rewarded. We have to hold on to our confidence. You need to persevere so that when you've done the will of God, you will receive what He has promised. You need to persevere. Kept holding that into my mind. I need to persevere. You know, I took a leave of absence to be able to go and hike this. I talked to my boss, and I said, I want to go hike that Appalachian Trail. And he goes, and I was willing to quit my job at that point. I was like, I have to do this. I have to go do this. And I was resolved. And you can see it in my eyes. And he said, okay, we can work something out. I was very grateful for that. And so I took a leave of absence from work. I started 2 days after my birthday on March 27th. And I started hiking north. And I knew that if I stopped, that a lot of other pieces would fall apart. You know, a lot of people made sacrifices for me to be able to go and do this. And so there's a lot of reasons why I kept going. You know, but for me, it was this scripture. You know, we have to find those things in our life when it's really challenging. We've got to find a scripture to hold on to.
Yes.
You have to find something to hold on to. And for me, it was one of these where I've got to persevere and let this finish this work. I've got to keep going. And I know for me, I've got to have hands-on learning. I can't do it at my house. I can't grow as a Christian, sitting in my house and going to my job and let that be my routine every day. I've got to go do something else. You know? How many times have you been to a museum, right? You think about that? You've been to a museum, you've been to an art exhibit, you've been to these different places. How many times have you ever been to God's museum? How many times have you been to God's art exhibit? You look outside that window, it's right there. It's that early morning sunrise that totally takes your breath away. Right. You know, it's that sunrise on the beach where you just can't even believe it. Right? Well, have you ever seen a sunrise in the mountains? When the beams are coming through the fog, you're like, I cannot even believe that God would make it beautiful from my perspective. That means that God's got to be standing next to me in order to make this beautiful here. Because from His perspective, He sees it a whole different way. But He knows exactly where I'm standing. You know? And it's easy for us to kind of just allow life to happen. We got to make life happen. I need hands-on learning. I need a field trip. Jesus sent His disciples out 2 by 2 in order for them to put their faith into action. And for them to practice living in distance from Jesus, but closeness with the Holy Spirit. Think about that for a second, right? Because He had to put them in a situation where they had to do it in their trust and faith in God. They couldn't do it by the things that they had around them. You know, they had to do it in a different way. And you can look, the reference scripture would be Mark 6, 7 through 13, and Luke 10, 1 through 23. Hiking this trail taught me more than I could share about pain, struggles, perseverance, hope, endurance, purity, and faith. Those are the things that I can share just about pain, I can share just about struggles, I can share just about perseverance. Every single mountain you have to practice perseverance. Every single one of them. And you do as soon as you got to the top, that's great. I'm going to go down, and I'm going to go up another one. You know? So you have these little brief moments of rest, and then you're back at it. And then hope, you know. You're always hoping for a nice flat path, but there are always rocks in the way. There are always rocks in the way. You know, you're always hoping for it. Endurance, purity, and faith. I'll talk about purity for a second, you know. That was something that I honestly thought I was really going to struggle with. I'm like, okay, I'm away from my wife here. Okay, you know, I mean, this is going to be a hard, this is going to be a challenging time. But what I noticed was that I wasn't flooded with things from media. I wasn't flooded with images, things that I see all the time. I had no struggle. No struggle. Because the things that came into my psyche, into my mind, through my eyes, through my senses, through my feet, through my hands, through my smells, through my ears, were all good things of God. All good things of God. And it taught me a great lesson that the reason I have struggles is because of the environment that I build around myself. That's why I have struggles. Right? It's not because of Satan takes the opportunity. He takes advantage of it because it's right there. And so for me, going away, it taught me a lot about purity. It taught me a lot, and I'm not talking about just sexual purity, I'm talking about purity as a human being. Because I noticed that my senses were more aware. I'll give you one short little story. I hiked a little section with my father-in-law. He came up with me, we did a little section through the Whites, and we were it was about maybe 14 miles, 7 miles or so. Anyways, we're walking, and I was like, you smell that? And he said, nope, what is it? I said, someone's coming. And he goes, yeah, right. I knew you were crazy, but now you're really crazy. I'm like, okay, trust me. I'm not even kidding you. About 30 minutes later, this lady come walking up the trail, and he was like, what? And then what was really crazy was it was a lady that I'd hiked with before. And I was like, what? So, you know, it was like this little reunion. And he was like, wow. When he got next to her, he could smell her, you know. She was right. She needed to smell her. So, and I'm like, but man, I can smell that like a lot, you know. But that's not the only thing. Like, you smell flowers. Like, this aroma of the scent that God puts in front of you. It reminded me of how we are the aroma of Christ. You know, and I'm like, I can smell that. You know, I can smell that. And so that's just one of those things. We can talk about faith. And you have to trust that the trail is before you. You know, and you got to trust that it's going the right place. And this narrow path that you're walking in life, you got to trust that God had that laid out just right. He knows exactly what He's doing. You know, He knows exactly what He's doing, and there's faith in that. And I had to have faith that there was an end to this. Because it's not something that you can do perpetually. Your body cannot handle it. You know, I'm literally like, you smell like a zombie. You are like the amount of calories that you have to eat every day is beyond what you can carry. So you eat anything that you can eat. You know, like I went to the store when I would do a resupply, and the first thing I would look at were calories. I didn't even care what food it was.
Like, if it didn't have over 200 calories per serving, I wasn't even gonna buy it. Like, no way, right? Because there's just too much. There's too much to it. So I'll burn about probably 10 to 15 calories every day. 10 to 15,000 calories every day. 10 to 15 every day. I would do that like blinking, right? So here's the question. When is the last time you challenged yourself to do something you're not sure of? It doesn't have to be going hiking Appalachian Trail. But it may be, let me take a day trip somewhere. Let me get out of my comfort zone, right? Let me do something that's just a little bit challenging for me here. And let me work my way up. When was the last time you were uncomfortable? You know, that's the thing. It's easy to make excuses. You know, it's easy. We have to be very purposeful in trying to grow closer to God. You have to do that. Or it's really hard to take in the fullness of God's nature, right? When was the last time you were alive? That's your question. You know? Wow. There's a reason why some of us, you know, there's a reason for a lot of things that cause us anxiety, right? Maybe we have anxiety with trying to get in touch with God's nature. Maybe we're afraid of heights. Maybe we're afraid of bugs. Maybe we're afraid of bugs. Okay. What are you doing about it? Let's get real serious for a second. What are you doing about it? Probably nothing. I am really afraid of spiders. They freak me out, man. Anybody freak out? I'm a mountain boy. I've grown around some gnarly looking stuff. But spiders just get that, they just, you know, they just make you just want to, yeah, you know. I can catch a snake. Oh yeah, man. I'll tell you about snakes. So, but we got to be purposeful about going after the things that cause us anxiety. Why, man? Jesus is Lord, right? God made the things that are around us. So it's not that those are wrong. It's that we are disconnected from them. We're not in control of them. So we have to figure out how to live in harmony with these things. And when you start doing that on an incremental basis, you start broadening your comfort zone. When you're comfortable in a place where you weren't comfortable before, you grew. We have to grow. If you keep going at the same rate right now, where are you going to be? Right? Yeah, probably the same place. Did you ever finish the race? Maybe not. I don't know. But are you really alive? You got to go after doing those things. I'll tell you one little short story. So, I don't like it when I have a fear of something that like stops me. Like I don't like that. You know, I'm like, this is something that's controlling me. And Jesus should have worship over my life. And one of those things was spiders. The spiders. It sounds silly. I used to, you know, spiders used to freak me out. And I'm like, wait a second, this is irrational. This is just crazy. I gotta get over this, right? And I knew, you know, in my mind, what's that little spider gonna do, right? I mean, I know enough about nature to know that it's not just gonna just crawl out of its bed in the morning to just go and bite me. Like, that's not its purpose. It's not gonna want to come after me unless it's threatened or something like that, right? So I had to go about changing my fear of spiders. I do not recommend that you do this, but this is what I had to do to help me feel better about it, right? So I used to lead a summer camp for kids, and as I was, prior to leading one of the trail trips that summer, I just kind of walked the trail, made sure I knew the surroundings, little stories that I could tell here and there, and I came upon a black widow spider. Alright? Now that's a creepy spider. God designed it creepy for a reason, because it's dangerous, right?
Yeah.
It was like, oh yeah, let me go ahead and get away from that right now. That's not a good thing. Well, I said, I'm going to catch it. So, not only did I catch it, I got up on the stick, and I was forcing myself. But this was, I don't recommend that you do this, but you do have to do things. You might need to be a rebel like he was talking about. You got to do something. So this for me was my something that day, right? So here's a black widow crawling up a stick towards me. It took all that I could do to just not throw it down and run, you know? But I'm like, I'm going to get over my fear. Today is the day. So I decided I was going to touch it. Oh, literally. I know y'all think I'm crazy. You think what you want. Just help me out. I touched a black widow spider with my finger, and then I realized I don't have anything to get rid of. You know? this spider is as harmless as could be, but it has the potential to be harmful, right? Like you go walk to the edge of a cliff, that may scare you, right? Because you may fall off. Do you want to fall off? No. You don't want to fall off. That's why you're afraid, right? So you go where you feel comfortable. And you can see people's comfort zone when you go to a high mountain. Yeah. You can see it. They'll get a little closer. You got those daredevils that are out there. They're squirrels or something, and they're jumping out of the rocks and things. Just where they're comfortable, you know? So here, this picture may freak you out a little bit. Yeah. Right? But to me, that's a good feeling. I'm right there at the edge of where I'm comfortable. That's about, 600 feet down, there's another 700 feet, and it's a place called McAfee Knob in Virginia. Hiking the trail gave me a chance to pursue a seemingly invisible goal in a way that tested me in every area of my life. 1 Peter 1, 6-7. In this you greatly rejoice, though now for a little while you may have had to suffer grief in all kinds of trials. Yes, all kinds of trials. These have come so that your faith, which is greater worth than gold, which perishes even though refined by fire, may be proved genuine, and may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed. God wants to make sure that you're really built, that your faith is genuine, that you're not just hot air, that you're made of something. But sometimes we can run from the tests because that's hard, but those things are there for a reason. Sometimes we need to test ourselves. Hiking the trail gave me a chance to see with my own eyes the journey of faith that I was walking spiritually. I was able to see it. I have to be able to see things. I guess probably I'm like Thomas in the Bible. This is supposed to be Jesus, right? And Jesus comes back, and he's like, wait a second, you're really Jesus? Let me see your hands. Let me see it. And Jesus knew that. I guess maybe I'm one of those kind of guys. I've got to see this thing. I've got to see this thing to make it real for me. Hiking the trail, I was able to see it. I was able to see it with my own eyes. And that's how I was able to perceive it. The path of righteousness that all believers walk. I also saw the end and the goal. The mountain of the Lord's temple will be established as chief among the mountains. It will be raised above the hills, and all nations will stream to it. This is the goal. This is the top. This is the end. A very emotional thing for me to actually see that point right there. This is a mountain called Katahdin. This is the northern part of the Appalachian Trail. It's the end. It's the equivalent to being a Christian and seeing heaven from a distance. Yeah. That was powerful. It gives me goosebumps right now. I walked down to this edge of this lake, and there was a little sign that said, Katahdin this way. View of Katahdin. And I was hesitant. I took it in spiritually. I'm like, okay, I'm about to look at something here, and I want to make sure I capture this moment. And so I remember I prayed. I was like, I know this is more than just looking at this. Because of my faith, this is more than just looking at a mountain. I'm looking at more than this. So when I stepped out, I looked over the water and I let my eyes go to the top. And I was like, wow, there it is. There is the end. How many prophets have stood in a similar place and saw the end? What did Stephen see when he was being stoned to death? What did he see? Here I am, I'm standing there, and I'm like, okay, how shameful would it be to quit now? How shameful would it be to just sit here and stare at it? No, we're not supposed to do that. We're supposed to go to it. It says all nations will stream to this mountain. So I looked at this mountain. It's chief among the mountains. If you go to northern Maine and you see there are no other mountains like this. This is a very special mountain. It's the highest point in all of Maine. Everything else around it just kind of flat. It's kind of like there are some southern points of Maine that are real rocky and kind of high, but when you get up to the northern part of Maine, there's just not a lot like this. A lot of lakes, a lot of things like that. But a mountain like this is of a grand scale. This is a very big mountain. I'll give you, like, that little part from right there to about right there is a mile. Okay? So this is like a 3 mile wide mountain right here, right? So that's a big top to a mountain.
Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob. He will teach us his ways, so that we may walk in his paths. Walking takes work. You know, you get out of breath, you get sore, you get fatigued, you need to take a break. Well, we got to do it. You know? Now, some of us may not be able to walk. Some of us may have some different things that won't allow us to do that. But there are still things that you can do. There are many awesome things that you can do to still challenge yourself. Right? God's path is not something that has to be walked, but it is something that can be experienced fully when walking it. But there's a path nonetheless. He would teach us his ways so that we may walk in his paths. So I'm looking over this, and of course all the lakes, all the trees, just biodiversity, biomass that surrounds you all the time. It's just totally mind-blowing. Of course, you take this in, like, how long did it take to make that mountain right there? How did God do it? You know, he tells us through creation how God did these things. We can't understand it, and I can't understand that, you know. But I know God did it. And to be able to see those kinds of things outside of your power, in an epoch of time that you can't even comprehend, you know, we got to get there. Well, we got to see those things. It's really hard to see that stuff, you know, without really trying to step out there. That's this rock right here. When's the last time you touched a rock here? You know? Just do that. Just go out there and do that. And then do it more than once. There are a lot of spiritual qualities coming from the things that are around us that we're disconnected from. You know? Like you hear about, you know, like you go on a trip or something and you want to turn your phone off to disconnect. Turn your phone off to connect. You know, you go to the beach, not to disconnect. No. You go to the beach to connect. You get in the wilderness to connect. Not to, like, yeah, okay. When you connect with God, like everything else, it's nothing. When you have an experience where you become the creation that you are, that sounds kind of crazy. We are all created. Or we were all created, right? And the tendency of our life is to remove ourselves from that creation. That's right. You know, that's what everything, you know, like, because it's uncomfortable. You itch, you sweat, you start having struggles. It's like, oh, it's hot, not even a fan, right? Well, you know what? We need to toughen up a little bit. You know? Sometimes we just need to toughen up a little bit. Get out of air conditioning for a little bit. Feel what it feels like to be where you're supposed to live. You know, we're supposed to live on this planet, on this earth. It was an overwhelming experience for me hiking this trail because I was a disciple. I saw everything in a different path. There are a lot of different people that go out there and hike the trail. Right out of college, that's a huge group of people right out of college taking a gap year. And then the next largest group is right out of retirement. You got a lot of people in their mid-60s, early 60s, hiking this. You know, I ran into some ladies that were 76 years old in this trail. Yeah, there's some heroes right there. Like they're you know. And because of that, everything meant more. Everything meant more to me because of God. And He was with me every single step. My faith allowed me to see more than I imagined that I would have at the beginning. And his master replied, "Well done, good and faithful servant. Come and share in your master's happiness." So this is at the very end. And that's the sermon in itself. But I hope that we can all say this at some point, that we have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. You know, sometimes it takes us doing things that are beyond what we're doing right now so that we can finish the race. No, in all these things we are more than conquerors. For you are receiving the goal of your salvation. The goal of your faith, the salvation of your souls. Now, for me, you know, these are the things that were ringing true when I was finishing up.
These are the things that I was thinking about. A lot of people go and they have their own spiritual journey, they have their own experience, and they want to party and have a beer on top of the mountain, and that's how they want to celebrate. One fella that I was hiking with was from Great Britain. He called me on his 60th birthday from right there. I was back down in High Point at this point, back in Greensboro, teaching. This is in September. And he summited on his 60th birthday, and I was the only person that he called. The impact that you have in your life. You know, I was able to have an impact all the way up the trail. Each person is kind of given like a trail name. Kind of like if you talk on CB, so CB handle, you know what I mean? Yeah. So people on the trail have trail names, and my trail name was Hot Pants. Not funny, right? Hot Pants. I'm like, I don't want Hot Pants. I can tell you a story about how that happened. But so anyways, from that point, I started wearing these really ugly shorts. It's really hard to see from this picture, but I went as Hot Pants. And so people know us by different things, you know. But I hope that people know you because your light is shining. You know, that you're being active in working out your salvation with fear and trembling. And being one that crafts purposeful events to help you grow. You know? And really embrace this life that we have. Because it's there. Now, for me, hiking Appalachian Trail, right? For you, it could be something else. But do something. Do something, right? That's what Mitch is talking about. Do something. Go on a walk with God somewhere. And then start this process. Start this process of being able to take God in. Take Him in. He's wanting to be found by you, but we have to seek Him and find Him. And Jesus tells us on the last slide here, I have come that you may have life and have it abundantly. Go live it. Go live it. Start today. He's got this whole weekend planned out for you guys to start allowing yourself to take God in. So let it start today. Write down some decisions you're going to make to challenge yourself to grow. Challenge yourself to be different. Challenge yourself to do something scary or do something that's uncomfortable. Get some advice. Whatever you're capable of doing, go do something. But don't do just the standard. Don't just let life come at you. Be like David and go to Goliath. He didn't let Goliath come to him. He went to Goliath. Go get it. Thank you guys. I appreciate it.